5, TracyTarum. Question number 1, the Bush tax cuts expire at the end of this year. What, if anything, do you think needs to be done about it? And the tax structure.
As far as the Bush tax cuts, it would be great if we could extend them, but I'm a realist, we're not going to. With the current bunch we have in Congress, they don't stand a chance of being extended, so they're going to expire. So I'll focus on the tax structure. I guess I'd say Bob says that he would favor the flat tax but accept the fair tax. I'm the opposite. I favor the fair tax, I would accept the flat tax. The reason I would accept the flat tax is because it distributes evenly the burden amongst everybody. But we still have an IRS. With a flat tax, we still have an IRS, and we still have an organization that should not exist that's going to know how much money you've made, how much money you've made. It's going to know how much money I made. That's not the job of the federal government to know that. I support the fair tax, which is a national sales tax. It doesn't matter whether you make $10,000 a year, $100,000 a year, whether you make $10 million a year. Whatever you purchase, you pay a flat tax. I support that.
Number 2, is the annual federal fiscal deficit an issue? And if you believe it is, what specifically will you do to address it?
The deficit is a huge issue. And November 17th of 2009 is a date which should live in infamy. Unfortunately, it's just going to be another date, and most people don't know what it represents. That's the date when our national debt first topped $12 trillion. Last week, only 8 months later, we topped $13 trillion, and we look to top $14 trillion at the end of this fiscal year, this coming September 30th. We cannot sustain this kind of growth. President Bush, in his 8 years in office, fighting 2 wars, the national debt grew by $4.9 trillion, and that's terrible, that's ridiculous. Under this president, in the first 20 months of his presidency, our national debt will have grown by $3.6 trillion. Now you break that down, that is $180 billion per month, $6 billion per day, $250 million per hour, $4.2 million per minute, $70,000 per second increase in national debt in the first 20 months of this president's tenure.
All right, sir, the third question, of course, has to do with just that. We have the $13 trillion national debt. Do you consider this a problem? So specifically, what will you do about it?
Absolutely, it's a problem. It's a problem that we're mounting an insurmountable debt that our children cannot possibly repay. On top of that, this money is borrowed from foreign nations who wish us harm. We're trillions of dollars in debt to foreign nations. What do I seek to do about it? One of them is cutting out earmarks, so I'd like to stop short on this question and save it to run over on the next one. Let's see what's coming.
Earmarks, good or bad, and spending bills, and why? Please explain.
Good or bad really shouldn't matter. They're bad, but it should not matter because they're unconstitutional completely. And the first thing the reason I'd like a little more time is just to explain the difference between pork barrel spending and earmarks. They're not the same, and they didn't morph one into the other. Pork barrel spending, it's immoral, it's ridiculous, but it's constitutional, because pork barrel spending is when, for example, our Representative Jim Cooper, he wants to entice you to vote for him by showing his good work. So he puts in the budget for $100 million to come home to a project. That's pork barrel, it's legitimate, but it's unnecessary. Earmarks, totally different. Totally different because they they don't pass a constitutional test. One of the things, they're completely anonymous. They can be, they're completely anonymous. And just a quick scenario on what an earmark is like. This is essentially how it works. The Widget Corporation of America, we'll call it, makes widgets. And they have funneled thousands and thousands of dollars into Representative Shyster's campaign. And the intention is, obviously, to get reelected. So they do it through families, they do it through friends, they do it through employees. It sounds like a union, but this is a fictional company we're talking about. They take that money, funnel it in. Representative Shyster now, as he's in office, he will take and he will secure a grant of $10 million to the Widget Corporation of America, only he doesn't have to put his name to it, so it's completely anonymous. So the funds to him are anonymous, the funds going out are anonymous, no Nobody knows, nobody's the wiser. That's why it's unconstitutional, because Article 1, Section 9 says that any money taken from the Treasury has to be accounted for in an appropriations bill. This does not have to go in an appropriations bill. They can slip this anonymously into a non-appropriation bill. It can be a report to a subcommittee in the House of Representatives, and they can slip this in anonymously. That's why earmarks are unconstitutional, bad, need to be stopped. Will not, absolutely, I will not vote for anything that contains an earmark.
Very good, sir. Bob Schwartz.